Да. So.
So I will start. I hope everyone hear us, and unfortunately we haven't written that we will talk English today in order to make this conversation accessible to the wider audience. But anyhow, hello everyone. I'm happy to welcome you to our public talk, which is happening on the occasion and also at the part of the digital exhibition of artist Lesia Khomenko, which is entitled The Painting from the Photo That Was Taken at a Great Distance and Then Cropped. The digital exhibition, which is taking place in the Shukhlída Exposition Environment. So today I'm happy to introduce and to talk with Lesia Khomenko, the artist, the author of the exhibition, and also with artists and co-founders of the Shukhlída Exposition Environment, with Liera Polianskova and Svitlychnyi. My name is Tatiana Kochubinska. I'm an art historian and independent curator, and today I will be moderating our talk. And I think that for the last nearly 10 months, the most important question for us and the topics of all of our talks, discussions, the topic of the question of possibilities of arts during the war. And of course, the question if the art can be a tool of resistance and if we can use art in order to overcome numbness, because I think that after the full-scale Russian invasion in Ukraine, I think that most of us felt this impossibility to talk by the means of art, and we were thinking about if there is a possibility to create a language which was meant to describe the situation that we are right now, and if we can think about art as a possibility to overcome oppression. And today we will talk about one segment about the digital realm, and to think about the digital realm, if it can offer some solutions under the circumstances of war to overcome the oppression, and to really think about art as a way to resist. And we will talk today with Lesia, Liera and Ivan about the capacities and also needs of the virtual space on the example of Lesia's exhibition in the Shukhlída environment. And before giving the word to Liera and Ivan, who are co-founders of the Shukhlída exhibition environment, I would like to say also a few words about Shukhlída, because now we know Shukhlída as a virtual space. But I think it's really interesting to think about the history of this space, of this alternative exhibition space, and how it appeared. Because Shukhlída takes its origin from a really political and social disagreement, and from the very analog and offline and very much conflicted situation, because it dates back to the 2011 when Liera and Ivan and other artists, they created a certain community of artists and musicians, which was located in the abandoned Kharkiv thermal power plant, where they were making concerts, artist studios, exhibition spaces. But at some point, this very physical space was heavily closed by the radar capture, and basically the artists lost their artworks and everything that they got there, and they started thinking about the possibilities of having or creating an independent space where you can really freely speak. And at some point, they came up to a conclusion that the only space where you can freely speak is a certain box or a drawer, because Shukhlída is translated from Ukrainian as a drawer. So, and this idea of the independent space, which in a way had become a virtual and digital space of Shukhlída, it has its history in a very intensive situation, an urgent situation of political resistance back then in 2011. And in a way, you found this escape in the digital virtual space. So I'm happy to give a word to you. and to make an introduction of some of the projects and how Shukhlída developed through these years, because the idea came in 2011 and now we are in 2022. And during this decade, like especially in the last 4 years, Shukhlída and the space had been reactualized 2 times, basically first after the pandemic, which was caused by the COVID-19, and now during the war, when again the digital communication has another realm of, and it's becoming also very much important today. So basically, Shukhlída is becoming again actual. So I'm welcoming you just to give an introduction of this space, how it developed, why you decided to make it, and probably afterwards we will talk also about the challenges of this space. So please welcome Ivan and Liera.
So thank you a lot for a great introduction, and you already told us a lot about what we want to say. And in general, like, yes, it started in 2010 with physical space, and as you said, and I just show you photo how it is look. It's like main place, culture center in Kharkiv, culture center near the energetic place, and some factory, and quite huge with scene for concert, with exhibition spaces. For example, this is our nightclub there, and it's like really, it was a really great time, and a lot of artists collaborate with us, and we give free spaces for them, and it's really become to be a community. And then in one day, with all this like illegal takeover frames, like with some guys with like military equipment just broke our doors and said you have couple hours to disappear. And it's some concert there. So this photo from view from window, it's this factory was illegal takeover. So, and after this, let's say trauma, we start to think, a couple of years we think about this, and we start to think how we can create some exhibition space, open and for everything, for and free, without any problem like illegal takeover or budget or your ideas. And we decide to make it in virtual space in the internet, and it's quite hard in 2013, but we created. And I shortly show you some exhibition already in Shukhlída, previous exhibition. It's first exhibition, and it's quite important for us, and quite, let's say, nice. And like we create like classic exhibition with different media, as every culture center open. When every culture center opens, they make some cut of artists, make some cut of media, and we create this classic one white box exhibition with sculptures, installation, audio and video. So it's like backstage how it's look. Art is special for us, create small piece of art, and especially for this exhibition. Next one exhibition is solo exhibition of Yaroslav Futinsky, who curated by Ksenia Malach. And from this point, we start to think about our platform, like platform for curators, and we start to propose make exhibition for curators, and then they choose the artist topic just to be like more flexible and don't have a lot of pressure on our exhibition space, let's say. Yeah, and this exhibition about couple topic, but for us as exhibition space, main topic here is how we can introduce and show performance. And when you start to watch this exhibition, you just see this box with a word, and when you click on this word, you jump from exhibition space to performance space, and it's like really a great experience when you can just change the space. For example, it's like another opportunity of our space. Yeah, it's like backstage of this performance. And last one exhibition before Lesia's, it's exhibition, solo exhibition of Alexei. It's like really huge exhibition with a lot of works. It's retrospective exhibition. Curator the same Ksenia Malych, and it's pop-ups on the COVID when COVID started, 2019. Yes.
Yeah. We don't remember.
Yeah, and it's quite huge exhibition, and it's like for us as exhibition space, it's like mixed media, let's say, when we create some physical works and in the box and digital world, when you go through the tube who created by works of Alexei, you just go through them from one space, one story, one piece of art to one series of piece of art to another one. Yeah, it's like this tubes of works. And yeah, again, backstage. So for us, it's like extremely important in this project, like open a lot of like different questions about, for example, original of digital work in the internet, about mixed media and different questions. I don't know how more say. So and now we have exhibition of Lesia Khomenko. Like short introduction.
Thank you for the introduction, and actually you have chosen like really different exhibitions, like with the first one in a way, but it's something we will discuss afterwards, how to use the nature of the digital and not to mimic something that surrounds us in a real, in our physical reality, and how not to make this self-referential world, not to recreate and not to mimic what we see in the surrounding. And I think that Lesia's exhibition is also an interesting step in the development of your space and working with the medium of painting. And Lesia, who is for I don't know how many years, but really consistently exploring and researching the medium of painting. And I'm giving the word to you just to describe how this project appeared and why it's important to you. And I think it's the first time you are really operating fully in a digital space and making the exhibition with a medium that you are developing for years. And it's interesting how you position this project within your practice. And I'm giving the word to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this talk. I'm very happy that it's happened. Yes, basically, I would like maybe to share screen with the exhibition itself. Does it work? Is it work?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So basically it's how the exhibition looks like. It's just scrolling full size in the scale 1:1 painting. Painting originally 2 meters by 120. I would like to introduce it and explain when idea came up and so on. And first of all, I would say that I have like two different stories about it. First, it's my, as Tanya mentioned, a long time practice with deconstructing figuration. And like over 10 years, I mixed up the idea of abstract painting and figuration and comparing it and building the relations between these two opposite approaches to the image. And I'm usually working with this through the construction of the figuration. And one of my last experiments was the fragmentation of the image. So I thought this is a blindness which appears out of the like very close up close view. Could be tool to understand the medium, and at the same time could be metaphorically my statement about the historical blindness. So I tried to work with this by doing my research with National Ukrainian Museum of Art and working with the archive. The idea to look on the archive was very close distance, very small distance. And another part that I'm really inspired by practice by Shukhlída and by guys, the experiments, because they always not just use virtual space, but they always criticizes and analyze the possibilities of the online dimension on a realm. So I was always in a mind dialogue with them. So I always was thinking, what could I exhibit there? And in one point, this two kind of thinking process went in one point, and it happened before full-scale invasion. It was like about maybe 1 year ago, or maybe a little bit less. We came to this idea with this show because I was preparing a big solo show in National Museum, which never happened because of the war. But this idea to look on the work with from very close distance, it was like my tool in that time. And at the same time, I felt a huge fragility of digital dimension as well as a painting during pandemic, because everything, as all of us know, turned to online. And for painting or for some physical works, as in like, I don't know, institutional installation, sculptures, painting, it was a catastrophe because this body experience, physical presence near the work is very important. So this digital space just killed it. And I was looking how different institutions try to manage this issue with online shows, especially art fairs, when they exhibited plenty of works such big, and put some like image of the human body in front of them to for audience to have idea about the scale of the work. So it was very funny, and I thought that like almost no one reflect the new circumstances of this online world of pandemic. So I thought that I should represent my work in the scale, in the original scale. And it will be like only one respond on all this situation. Yeah, and it just came out in one point. Then this work basically was made just before full-scale invasion. It was few weeks before I escaped in Kiev. And it's also very important what kind of work it is, because it's a soldier, and I took the photo of the soldier from the window of my Kiev studio. I was working on this footage because my studio in Kiev was facing to the army unit, and I was spying from the very high point, from the 6th floor to this backyard, and soldiers usually go through and back. And I was thinking over 2 years about this experience, that I'm in the center of the capital, but the war always support me. I never felt safe, even in Kiev, even like since 2014. So I started to spy them and to take photo on my telephone by zooming very intensively, zooming the image, and the image, of course, of soldiers was very noisy. And I was comparing the view of artistic view with the military optic and with military view, with view of the sniper. And I was thinking that my conclusion was that artists always look on the surface of the body, while shooter always want to penetrate the surface of the body and go inside with bullets, or with idea of destroying the body. So it was my like experience before full-scale invasion. Now I changed it completely, and that experience was quite romantic, naive, and I don't know, of course. But this work is one of those works which I zoomed by telephone. So, and by this exhibition, we could zoom the work itself also and look on this very closely. So it has a lot of layers, and I think it's important, like for audience, people could take one of the aspects which I put on in this work. Like it could be work about like digital space. It could be work about body. It could be work about the painting itself. So for me, always important to make multi-interpretational work, because painting is quite simple media. It's almost always very flat, two-dimensional. It's very well studied. Like I mean, we know about painting almost everything, so it's very clear. So for me, always important to put a different kind of interpretation what I'm doing with one piece. So.
Yeah, Lesia, thank you. And but at the same time, I think I have a question to three of you. Also, you shortly mentioned about the experience of the viewer, and what you were talking here, like this approach that you had. I like what you call it, like blindness that appears. Blindness is something that cannot appear, but it's not visible. But by zooming out, by zooming in, you are really making this blindness visible. I think it's like really a interesting paradox. It's something that cannot be seen, but at the same time, you like as if developing it out. But also, like you as organizers of Shukhlída, you as an artist, like anyhow, what the digital space does, it deprives a painting of any type of tactility, though we know it's a very much tactile medium. And at the same time, you mentioned about this also deprives of the feeling of scale. But here in this special exhibition, like it's for you, it's a deliberate decision, like you don't want the viewer to feel the scale. Yeah, because it's also about the fragmentation of any type of our experience, and that at the end we cannot really fully feel the experience of the artist. So in this way, it's very much individualistic exhibition, because it really comes to very individual experience with so many optics and perspectives, but at the same time, you as organizers of this environment, like this exposition environment, you as an artist, like what would you accept the viewer to experience? Like how would you, what do you feel like what the viewer can perceive? Because this is as perception which is happening online and offline, because some viewers could see this work in the exhibition of the Pinchuk Art Center, for example. It was like completely different experience. So like what would you accept? What would you expect the viewer to experience, and what type of perception online they can get from this medium?
Okay. What we expect? It's like a really open question for us. It's like really important to like.
I don't know. I don't know. Experiment, and I think.
Yeah, for us, it's time. Every time it's like new experience, and we try to open something new, like tools, like a medium, like a new question about this environment, online environment, and our collaboration with Lesia, it's like goes through the years, because Lesia like know about Shukhlída a lot, and really give us a lot of feedbacks about Shukhlída, and yeah, it's like not just a pop-up exhibition just now. It's like long discussion about virtual space, and in this case, it's super important for us. Exhibition, it's like somehow. Take a lot of layers of our exhibition space. For example, one of I said like original work, and how you can create original work on your screen, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and for me, always important to think about new medias in a critical way, because I find that everywhere, like around the world, there are many cases where when new technology is just accepted without any kind of reflection or critical analysis. And what we see with pandemic, it was the same. Like everyone just took these technologies of, for example, a 3D virtual space to create these online shows, but the shows themselves were just digital copies of the originals.
Yeah.
But like it was a really lack of the reflection of this relation between original and digital copy. I understand that we are living in a really big turbulence since I don't know 2019. So actually we didn't have time to just a little bit slow down and reflect on what's going on. We just instrumentalize everything around us and I don't know, sell everything or something like this. But what we see now it's much worse. So now it's a war, you know, like everyone forgot about pandemic already, because now we really don't have time. But at the same time, we came to the digital world even closer, and I call it cyber war, because I really feel that we are living in cyber war, and it's not only issue of Ukrainian war, it's a very global problem. And I think one of the role of art to deconstruct these manipulative tools by authorities who produce this war, because the art by these critical tools, but tools of deconstruction phenomena, really has potential to produce new knowledge or new experience, or to just liberate people from this propaganda mode, from this mode of being like, you know, just clients, you know, of this bullshit. So like for me, it's one of the mission of the art it's to deal with this problem. And I think even through painting, it's possible, because painting is one thing that people respect. That people respect to painting always. They trust to painting. Painting always like shows something. So through painting, it's like key to speak about something much more complicated. And now basically we are all of us in a different spaces. I haven't seen you guys many months. I'm like in USA, so we use digital tools always. So I'm like very lonely. Every one of us were in evacuation, very lonely, and only one space which unite us is a digital space. At the same time, digital space is so noisy because it's full of controversial information. It's full of death. It's full of blood. It's full of fakes. So we deal with this every day, and I'm very interested how art relate to this digital space in general, not only with online exhibitions. In this huge stream of aggressive information, where is the place of art? I don't know, like in social media, in some news, in some reviews, or this relation, I think, is also very important point. So I mean, it's a complex. So I always understand my practice in a context, not in art, not only art in art history context, but also in the cyber war context since 2014.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lesia, because you touched upon so many other issues and questions, because I also had comment towards what Ivan said about the feedbacks and individual experiences of the viewer, but we can just think like collect all the questions, because I have like this comment about the previous replica, and like, for example, in the context, and also it's interesting what you said, what you, Lesia, said about this trust towards the painting, like painting in the most credible medium. But here you fully deconstructed, because you cannot really grasp the whole. You can't just, I don't know, scroll down and you want to see this painting, because you like, it's our conventional thinking about the painting as a whole, like it's a tableau, and we got acquainted to perceive it as a whole. And here we just see these fragments of reality, which in a way can be aggressive. But what we see while just scrolling down, we see some fragments of brush strokes, like at some point, some colors might remind us about the military realia, but anyone can find different ways. But also what I just would like to come back also to this comment, what Ivan said about the feedbacks, that it's important for you to use this platform as an analytical and critical tool. And do you gather somehow the feedbacks of the audience? Because you said that it's always important for you that every exhibition is an experiment, and you really work very long on in a very thorough way on every exhibition. And so as you are saying, like every exhibition is an experiment, so we are trying by the means of exhibition in the process when it's being exhibited, when it's on, you can get different feedbacks, and then in a way develop the platform. And also you always accentuate on the point that for you, while making every exhibition, it's important to use the nature of the digital, but not to replicate. And if just to combine these two questions, in this special exhibition of Lesia, if there is a tool, how you collect the feedbacks of the audience in order to improve, and if you collect it, or you just collect it from the community, or because then we will also speak about the visibility, how to make the space more visible to the wider audience, which is also another question about internet independence and commercialization of the internet. But like, do you have in mind collecting these feedbacks in order to improve? And in this special exhibition, how do you feel, how do you use this nature of the digital in this special case of thinking with the medium seems to us conventional?
Okay, so about feedbacks, we mostly collect them from the work, from the curator, from our community, art community around, and this experiment pop-ups together with people who create this exhibition and we who support this exhibition and make this production of exhibition. In this like collaboration in work, we discover a lot of question and a lot of answers on this topic, like digital world and all this. But in general, for us, I think like from since Shukhlída start, we stop to separate digital world and real world, and it's like for our exhibition space, and it's a really important question and important position from it's like it's really already it's just other part of real world, and when we stop separate this, we take responsibility what exactly happens in the online, let's say. It's like, and you start to analyze and start to be more critical and more like really take response what you're doing and what you read and what you saw, and in immediately pop ups it's this topic for us. And probably it's like now it's like main topic for us, like stop to separate this and take responsible and change your view, change your understanding. And in this case, I don't know, maybe you want to say something.
No.
I was dreaming because we were preparing this show before full-scale invasion in Kyiv all together, and I was dreaming the opening of this show. It should be a big party in Kyiv, somewhere in Kyiv, maybe in Fotina's studio, when all our friends would come together and scrolling my work fragmentally. They could make a puzzle, so they could scroll every fragment and collect all image through their devices offline, of course. So it is this show, of course, is online show, but I thought about also to think about devices in a real world and to combine with different devices like this 2x120 work like on an exhibition opening. So, but it didn't happen. And we have only online opening now. Yeah, but it's like relations between, like I'm a really offline person. So when I was thinking about opening, I was thinking about this, like, you know, real community, real devices, real scale, like of course irony with my work and so on.
Yeah, and about our practice, like really behind every exhibition stay offline work and offline opening, let's say, when people collaborate and try to analyze together how it's work, and time to time it's happen in VR, for example, in our studio, or like Lesia said, we really plan and curious about this opening, but probably sometime we in future we make it. And in general, yes, and mostly like back to the feedbacks, mostly these feedbacks pop-ups in such events, or just meet people and show and just talk about physics. So it's a second important question for us, not separate like, and behind all virtual space stay real space and real works, like how to say, not works, but real work.
Yeah, and I think this competition between different sources online. Maybe you also mean this, Tatiana, that there are different initiatives online that could be invisible because of the, this noise of different self-representations. I think it's also another issue to discuss and to think about, because all of us, we use social media to be visible. And I don't know, since my evacuation, I really experienced that social media work through like professionals share their practices, and making a lot of curators and researchers like make research through in Instagram, for example, and so on. So it's like competition between like huge companies and small initiatives, but I would say that the competition is everywhere. Like in the USA, it's a huge competition of offline initiatives, for example. So it's just very small world, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't think about it. So I think, yeah, to think somehow about this presence. Of course, when we choose something online, we choose from our personal point, and we meet each other online, but we meet real like friends or people who we know, or like we make these small rhizomas all the time and small art communities all the time, offline and online, and one visible, another not visible. So it's interesting, I think.
Yeah, but I meant more the question that I touched upon, but I think it will be also a different question also to Ivan and Liera. It's not only about the competition, but it's also about like this, utopian thinking about the internet when it appeared that it will be a really democratic space for everyone. So when I was talking about visibility, I was more thinking about this direction, that it was like a real shared space for everyone where anyone can express himself or herself. And I think also like when Shukhlída appeared, it also was provoked by the idea of making an independent space where no guy can come just with guns or whatever and just kick you out. So it was about this also beautiful idea of being fully independent. And probably we can switch to this question, but I also have a comment about what you've said about the offline party of the exhibition. If there were no war, and if it had happened in Kiev, it would be also, I think, interesting point of the exhibition, if trying to grasp the whole and to collect the fragments with the devices, and to fail with, if it failed of creating the whole, I think it would have been also an interesting aspect of the exhibition, because for me in this digital experience, for me personally, it's very much important aspect of this show online is just again to face this impossibility of grasping the whole. And I think that it's all what's unifying you, like your replicas, what Ivan said about Shukhlída, that they're trying not to separate the digital and the real. And I think it's like really a political statement. It's important, but we are like being very analog people are trying always to differentiate. But for years already, we live in a very much hybrid world. Yeah. And for example, from my personal experience, when I was traveling in Ukraine, like in the middle of March, traveling from Kiev to the western part of Ukraine, when there were all these blog posts, I did realize that I don't have a perception it as a blog post, because these images had been mediatized before so well. So when I have seen like a military person with a gun, I didn't really, of course, if I had been in the front or somewhere, of course, I would have felt it differently. But I mean that I didn't really have a perception of the real life. So my perception of the image that I had seen before in a mediatized reality had been the same. was completely blurred. I didn't really have the difference. So, and I think what you are saying about this, like what Ivan mentioned about Shukhlída, it's really a statement, and for me, it's also a very important statement in this exhibition, like that you really indicate this impossibility of grasping the whole. We can't, and on the one hand, it's such it's such a horrible thing, like you cannot be fully empathetic on the one hand, because you cannot really, you don't see the whole, you're just collecting these fragments of reality. And I think like how you work with this exhibition and with this painting in the digital space, is just given this tension and stresses on this tension between the whole, and like that we just get some very small fragments of the reality. And I'm sorry to speak too much, but I needed to grasp all the comments what you've said. But I do feel that exactly in this, how to deal with the whole, and like you're just showing the viewer that you cannot get this, because the war is so much complex. On the one hand, you can be in the bomb shelter and just trying to write a message somewhere and saying, I'm okay, I'm in the bomb shelter, but at the same time, there is no connection with other people, and there are so many experiences and there are so many layers. And I think like what you're doing, you make this tension very much visible, even in this very much simple tool. And I do feel, and I do see exactly in this a very much political statement in your work, exactly in this gesture. I don't know, probably you can comment about the scale of like painting, but at the same time, it's about the scale of the cyber reality and cyber wars that we live in. Sorry for speaking, but I wanted just also to express here, not only as a moderator, but like as a viewer of this show. But I think how you deal with this fragmentation and the whole and our individual experiences is very much related also to the war realia, though you have thought of this show like a year ago, just even more than a year ago.
So after your like thesis, it's like I really hope we leave this like possibility when you can fix some problem together. So it's like you can't see this like piece of art fully, but together you can. So it's like super important for me. I think it's like somehow change your mind when you just view from the side on this situation, and you can rescale this situation on other questions and find out some method of deal with problem and fix the problem together. It's really a super important feeling around us now. This collaboration and units of people, yes, and I think behind this feeling, behind this exhibition, stays the same feeling for me now. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Tanya, for this brilliant reflection. And I think when you was talking, I just remember that what I wanted to say, that it's very important that it work was produced like 1 year ago, like invent 1 year ago, because we were staying on a different point there. And my point was, my artistic position was that I shouldn't explain about the war directly, because, you know, war started 2014 and I was working with this issue, but I felt really huge weakness as an artist, weakness to represent this experience, what you mean, what you also mentioned. So I decided not to report about what happened in my country, but just to build like meta-narrative, meta-narration, and produce very, very complex works, which never explain directly what's going on. Like to produce very complicated kind of message, and public, like my public should open it like slowly, and through this practice of reading my works, like public should train themselves to be resistant to cyber war or to propaganda or to something like this. It was like my utopical kind of mission. And then I got outside the Ukraine now, like more than 8 months already, and I'm facing that here is nothing clear, nothing clear. So I could build such complicated work, but it wouldn't be clear if it would be even poster, you know. So I'm living now not in my comfortable intellectual community in Kiev, but I'm living outside, and sometimes I could meet like professional, like curator or art critic, who has no idea what happened in Ukraine. The very obvious things for us, for such kind of person, could be really unclear. At the same time, I could meet, like, I don't know, someone who works in like just a food shop, and this person could follow the news, and this person could ask me very, very precise questions about Ukraine and be really, really informed. So the landscape of Ukrainian context is very, very different. And the mission of art for me, I really rethink it. I don't want to be very clear from that point, but I thought that artists maybe should work with this house of cyber war a little bit differently now. So we really accumulate a lot of information and clear it and point on something important, like some aspects and something like this. And of course, we are working with the idea of the history and producing the knowledge for the history and thinking the past and so on and thinking about future. But I mean that this complicity of the work which now exhibited in Shukhlída, it's really marks that for me it's a marker that I did it 1 year ago. So it's really very based on my practice. So this work, it's possible to read when someone, for example, know what my painting are exactly. Yeah, because if it's a completely person from outside, it's just like, you know, some blurrings on the screen and something like this. So I mean, it's a huge problem, and I'm still thinking about it. What's the role of the artist globally? It helps me to look on different things in very wide angle from a wide perspective, but at the same time, it's a very weak position of every artist to be acceptable, to be understood, and so on. So it's completely new experience, I would say.
Thank you, Lesia. But yeah, we've discussed it before many times. Like probably, of course, it's not a topic of our discussion today, but you also mentioned this, like that people from the outside don't see the situation here. But at the same time, unfortunately, it's very much natural, because I always think about this responsibility, and also responsibility of myself, what I was doing when, for example, there were protests in Belarus or something, which was like, yeah, of course I was also suffering. I was reading stories, but I didn't do, I didn't do anything practically. And or if just to think about the globe, like there are civil wars and everything, the wars and violence are happening all around the world. And I think that in this case, this work is also gets this very much universal aspect, because like this military, the color of the military uniform and the color that you're using in your painting is also very much understandable. And if we just don't talk only about the context of the war in Ukraine, but just to think worldwide, it's something that will be clear. So I think it's an important message that you have in your work, because on the one hand, you're very much talking about the experience that you have here in our country, and also the another layer of the work about your observation, and when you were describing in the start that you were really observing from the 6th floor the army and the soldiers, and there are so many layers and they are built in the work. But at the same time, for me, for example, it's really important that the work speaks not only from our context, but it can be understandable, I don't know, in Chile or in Colombia, or I don't know, everywhere in the world. Because it's, again, I think that we can think also of this work as I don't know, as an appeal for solidarity, because when you start scrolling and thinking about this in this direction, then it can be also like very much solidarian tool, because we can think that people can really understand each other, but at the same time, it's horrible to acknowledge that beyond this we create, I mean, we as a humanity, new genocides and new wars. But I think like this complexity that you're all mentioning, and like in your work and as Shukhlída function generally, like if just to come back to the history of Shukhlída, how it appeared, and like how do you think like having this variety of exhibitions, and for example this special exhibition of Lesia that has given so many layers and points of departure for different discussions, because through this work, through this exhibition, we can speak about many topics. And in this perspective, how do you feel, how do you see the development of Shukhlída? Like, do you feel yourself in what you're doing, like really independent space? And do you aim at gaining more visibility, like for your space? Because I don't know, like probably you have some statistics, but who is aware of this tool? Because on the one hand, it's an alternative exhibition space, but they at the same time also a tool for important communication, and you can really communicate worldwide using the digital. But at the same time, we do understand that, as I just want to come back to the question that I had before, like we see that the internet is not really very much democratic tool, and you really have to pay for this gain in this visibility. So how do you see the development of Shukhlída after this project? Do you aim at extending the audiences and somehow promoting this as an also very important communication tool?
It's like quite important question, and quite painful for us, because we an artist, and we don't have any strategy of sharing and promote our project, and it happens time to time, but through the years it's grow and grow, and now we have like cool support of this project, and for opening we have 1,500 visitors, and yeah, it's like a huge number for Shukhlída, I think. And but in general, it's like it's like slowly growing, and everybody after COVID really in focus on online and understand how it's work, because in the previous practice before COVID, you really spent a lot of time even explain how it's work, and how we need to act in this space, and why we do it, why we don't use physical space, and all the story with our experience with physical space when it's an legal takeover, it's understandable. But then you start to speak about exhibition, and in this case, it's really hard. But now it's more easy, and everybody in focus, and everybody understand immediately what's happened. And in this case, it's really growing. Yeah, but I can't answer on this question clearly, because it's like spraying in community, and I don't know, maybe somehow it's pop-ups, and yeah, I can't answer on this question fully.
But then I have another question. Like after, like there is a long transformation, history of transformation, like from 2011 till now, and since then you also changed. I mean, you're as artist, and you build this community, and you have the photo news, and you have like a bigger community around you. And do you think then of Shukhlída probably as continuation and as part of artistic practice, when you started working more collectively for the last years, probably it would be more, if it appeared just exhibition space, and even in the title, Shukhlída Exposition Environment, but probably now in these years of transformations, and when you really made this community of younger artists around you, and you operating more and more as a collective hero, I don't know, character, probably it's a part of artistic practice for you all, or you mentioned about this collaboration, which was important all the time.
Yeah, it's like really like all the time through all our practice. It's like quite important question of our practice, like being collaboration and open something new from the side for us. And in this case, we all the time try to collaborate, and this TED's exhibition environment before Shukhlída, it's the same collaboration, and we just try to put people together and make something together. And main focus of this space, it's like collaboration, and people came there, they just have some idea, and there's some idea, this idea like start merge with other ideas and pop up new exhibition. It's like next step is Shukhlída. It's again about collaboration, about open space, about have time together to discuss and answer on some question. And yes, you said we founded community of media artists and mixed media artists, let's say, not only media, photos and so and it's next step of our work at what really necessary for us. It's like community around us, and grow together. Yeah, it's as you said, it's a really important part of our practice.
I also coming back to previous question about this relation between independent space, internet as independent space, and the turn to commercial space now. And if to compare with the guy's previous location in TED's in Kharkiv, I just remembered that a few months ago I was kicked out from my Instagram account by a hacker. So I said, okay, I was kicked out from internet space. I really lost my previous account. Of course, I was also a little bit stupid by clicking some link, but it was a raider attack on my space, let's say. So it's funny, a different kind of interpretation of what is our space and what is to be present somewhere or something like this. What is it? And I remember my feelings. I thought, okay, nothing special. It's just internet. It doesn't touch me physically, you know. It was for me very important because I was, of course, invested. Like I was collecting a lot of works there. I never sell through Instagram, nothing. So it's not a business. So it's not like something which I depend to everything very strong. But it was like connections with people and so on, contacts. But I remember that feeling that nothing happened with me physically, so I just forget it about this, so and go through. Yeah. So also I thought, like, you know, if we speak internationally, so I think maybe it's important to mention that our internet community, social media community in Ukraine, it's kind of toxic. It's kind of making this free speech, like democratic tools, on very loud mode. Like everyone could express the ideas, but through social medias, it turned to brutal kind of discussion. And I was thinking about it, and I thought that the problem of this trash, I would say, based on this virtuality, it's just my opinion, that people, when they speak physically, so their voices, their ideas, it's like electricity, yeah, and they go through wet body, like wetness. So this wetness of wet, waterful body, this wetness makes their voices a little bit down. And when they type something online, they are poor electricity. This body don't filtrate their voices. So this poor electricity real looks like, like this house. And when people communicate in person, they always like this body serve as filter to their voices. It's just, of course, artistic idea, nothing in common with, I don't know, real theory. But I had a feeling that people could express like really unnecessary things online, but in person they always like make a selection, better selection, what to do. So bodies are quite important things, I would say, in relations with the digital world.
Yeah, because we see the absence of a bottom, just speaking heads. I don't know, probably we have some questions, because I don't see if
we don't have questions.
Yeah.
But probably I would just to communicate that everyone is invited to put questions. So probably there will appear questions.
I can check.
And yeah.
They don't have questions.
Okay, then probably if you would like to add something, like in the end, what you said about this cyber attacks, it's just exactly about these merging realities and blurring realities, but probably with some time, like you will be also, like, I don't know, attacked virtually. At the same time, you also, in a way, like lose something from yourself. Or like, I mean, diaristic, because it's something very much private. So it's like somebody reading your diaries or get into your soul. Probably it can be also traumatic experience, probably. But probably you would like to see something at the end of our talk.
I want to say thank a lot for support Go MSM and UNESCO, support the exhibition and event.
Yeah, and thank you a lot, Tanya and Lesia, for this great discussion and super nice question and answers.
And Lesia for a great exhibition. Now it's my favorite exhibition in Shukhlída.
Yeah.
Yes.
So much. Really, I really happy.
And
I do. I very like this experience.
And
it's
I would
very
like to say congratulations to all of you for having this exhibition under very comfortable circumstances, and really to find force to do something beyond the obstacles. And congratulations to Shukhlída with the new project, and probably our discussion will bring you those questions and those feedbacks that you're waiting in order to improve and making even more complex statements in the future. And dear Lesia, thank you very much for your conversation and for being with all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.